Okay, Felix, you're rolling.
Okay, so we can just do this again.
Just talk, man.
Um, so yesterday David and I were in the demonstration, or what was the demonstration here in Paris. So yesterday I ended up getting arrested because a section of people were cornered off during what became the riot in Paris, and the hardcore people, the anarchists, managed to get away. We don't know how they managed to do that, but as the event went on, there were a group of maybe 300 people that were trapped by the police, and I tried to get out, so I asked them if I could, and then I was just escorted and put in a van and taken and imprisoned for 2 hours, and then after that taken to another place in a bus where they started pumping some sort of substance that was making everybody sneeze after having been tear gassed all day, and then ended up doing 24 hours in another part of the city. Before that, there had been about 40 people in a cell. Just they separated boys and girls. The girls started singing, and then the chanting continued. The morale was just basically a prolongation of everything that had been going on that day at the march. But they just kept putting people in the same cell together. There were about 40 people at one point. And then
How many people were in there in total, you think?
well, in that first cell there were 40 people, and then when we got to the different place, the second place where I spent the night and the morning where they did the fingerprints and the side shots and everything, it was a tiny little cell with 4 people, and they just had sort of yoga mats on the floor, those gym mats, and so that's where I slept. I just when you're doing time, you just want to sleep, make it go quicker. And
So how did you hear about the number of actual people arrested? And what was that number?
the word was constantly being reported. At the same time as in that night, last night, 350 people were basically arrested for the same thing. And these people, when I was waiting in that first cell, those 40 people that were in there were all sort of normal young people my age. They didn't look like anarchists, they didn't look like rebels. They'd all been in the same place at the same time, which is either the wrong place at the wrong time, or they had just been trying to take part in what was this demonstration.
Okay, you bring up anarchists, and I want people to understand, because I was there with you. If you could just give people the chronological order of what happened. Before any violence happened, we both know what took place first. Tell the people what happened. We arrived. It was a peaceful demonstration. What took place next when we circumnavigated the area?
You couldn't get out. I mean, the reason we were circumnavigating was because every side boulevard was blocked by a row of police, and so there was no escape. And then when they cornered in, which was after we were blocked from one another, I guess it was the less experienced participants, like myself, that got swept up, because that seems to be what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Those other guys must have known what they were doing. I mean,
Okay, and at one point it was peaceful, yes?
Uh-huh.
And then the group that was corralled in the square decided to try to leave the square peacefully, just walking out.
Uh-huh.
What happened then, Felix?
Well, the same thing. I mean, one of the guys that was in that cell with 40 people to start off with hadn't had anything to do. I don't think he even knew that there was meant to be a protest going on. He was in McDonald's, walked out and got swept up and put in a van with me.
So as the people tried to walk out, before a tear gas canister was fired, before a flash grenade went off,
Right.
the people tried to leave the square, some of them who were just there inadvertently.
Yeah, I mean,
What
if you look at
happened
the
next?
photos,
How did it turn to that violence we see in the news coverage? What happened?
some serious people started throwing stuff. I mean, there was a line of police.
So what do you think went first? Someone threw something first, or the tear gas went off first? What was your impression of how that happened?
Well,
And
let
do
me
you think
tell you-
people, and second, and firstly, when people are trapped, How did it
How do you
explain?
expect them to react?
Yeah.
I mean, they wanted to come down the initial march was heading south, and so they wanted to take the boulevard from the Place de la République, and so the peaceful people started walking, and we were very much leading that, or rather, we just went down with them, and then they formed the line. The police formed their line with their shields, and then they came at it, and they were all saying, "Si on ne marche pas, cela marchera pas," which means if we don't march, this isn't going to work, as in the summit, and the police just, they were so ready. They just started firing that stuff, spraying that stuff. It was the first time I'd ever had that in my eyes before. And these new, what are those things called? The sound guns.
Flash grenades.
Uh-huh.
So what do you think came first? The throwing of the stones and the candles, or the flash grenades and the tear gas?
No, the throwing of bottles and all that stuff came later. The first thing was the anarchists running around the corner and hitting them hard, and the chanting, if we don't march,
Just
this
trying
isn't
to
gonna
get
work.
out.
Trying to progress, trying to start the march, not a manifestation, not a demonstration, just a march through the city.
And what did the police do in response to that?
And then it was just pure tear gas and sound things, and then that headache stuff, chlorine.
And were they
And the whole thing was up in smoke.
were they hitting any of the protesters or using their shields on them?
At the beginning, I mean, the couple of girls sat down and in a Buddha position and sort of meditated in front of them, and then the people getting up and taking pictures of that. But that was just after they'd started spraying the stuff. I couldn't really see because we had to get out. We had to get.
You told me today that
People were firing.
you felt as though it were an illegal acts that the police were taking. What did you mean by that?
Nothing felt legal about what we went through yesterday. I mean, the whole thing was so illegal. I mean, this thing about, putting the 40 people in that room at that time, everything about it was futile, because we were just, they're just kids, and then this guy from McDonald's, and then after that, they put us in this bus, and we all started sneezing at one point, and when it took us on a tourist ride around Paris, and it was good fun. We got there, everyone was having a laugh, and then the kids were giving me good advice. They're my age, and we got to this place. The vehicle stopped, and we were sort of trapped inside the passenger section. The police had closed the door. We couldn't have our phones and coats and stuff, and then we all started sneezing. I don't know what they were pumping in there, but we all started sneezing. And then yeah, we did our 24 hours. But it was boring. The morale was fun to start off with, and there was still lots of chanting going on. What else were they saying? They said, état d'urgence, on s'en fout, il faut pas état du tout, which means a state of emergency, which is the current situation in France. We don't care. There shouldn't be a state at all. And so they kept that one up. But I guess 24 hours is the price you pay for giving two fucks about the climate and being there. And it's a generational thing. People can call me a rebel for having now got that on my record. Not that it's going to affect me in any other way. Not that it's serious. But if you think I'm a rebel for just being in a protest where there were families with their kids and whatnot, then you're not with this generation, you're not with the times, because we're in a crisis now. Europe's in a crisis, the world's in a crisis. It's an ecological one, so we're all affected, and you're going to be seeing more of the same thing. So it's not petty crime, it's just giving a shit, and that will get you into these sort of situations, complicated situations, and it's just going to be happening more and more now, so get used to it.
So we'll get back out on the streets tomorrow, buddy.
Right.
All right.